So guys, before we move to the conditional statement like if else or functions in Python or loops in Python, there is a very important and unique concept of indentation in Python, which is very necessary. Without covering this topic, you will not be able to properly understand the behaviors of conditional statement, function, and loops in Python. So the indentation refers or means is the spacing at the beginning of a code line. So if you would have seen this kind of indentation when you would have worked different languages, that the some group of the code um, has been shifted left with a particular space so that the readability is very good when you do this kind of indentation. Otherwise, reading a code is quite difficult. Python uses this indentation to indicate a block of code. Most programming language use certain characters or keywords to group the statement. Like if you would have seen latex code, there we have different environment, and for each environment it is considered to be a block of code with the begin and end keyword. And some languages use if and phi, for example in the header file, if you would have seen this, to indicate the block of code. And for example in C++, and also Java, in the loops or also the if conditions and else condition, we have this parenthesis to indicate the block of code that belong to a particular if, else, or for loops or while loops block of the code. So in Python, it is achieved by the white spaces before the beginning of the line. So Python, instead of using this parenthesis, Python uses a very different principle. Programs get structured through indentation. Um, this means that the code blocks are defined by their indentation. That means how much they are away from the left side of the code start. So uh, how does it work? All the statements with the same distance to the right belong to the same block code. That is the statement within a block line up vertically. This block ends at the line less intended to the line of the file. If the block has to be more deeply nested, it is simply further intended. So let's make it more understandable by taking an example. As the indentation is a very important concept in Python, and without this proper indentation, you will get this indentation error. In simple term, indentation refers to adding white spaces before a statement. As you can see, these white spaces, this is the indentation. It has some less indentation and it has more indentation, indicating that these two are different block. But the question arises, is it even necessary? To understand this situation, let's consider a scenario where you are reading a book and all of a sudden all the page numbers from the book are disappeared. So you don't know where to continue reading and you will get confused. So this situation is quite similar in Python. Without indentation, Python does not know which statement to execute or which statement belong to which block. So therefore, indentation has to be very proper in the Python coding style. So as you can see here, there we have some sort of pseudocode written for the if condition, if and else condition, and there are also some statements that are not inside the if else condition. As you can see how it is visualized by the interpreter. So the first statement right here before the if statement, um, this is the beginning of the code block, and from here the code block begins, as you can see, and then we have this marker which shows that a subsequent statement will be followed, which will be blocked, which will belong to a next code block. So that would be quite understandable by this example. So here in this example, the lines print logging on to Geek for Geeks, and this line, uh, they are two separate code blocks. One belongs to if and the other belongs to else. And the two code blocks of code in our example if statement are both intended for spaces. As you can see here, they are intended to the for spaces, and the final printf is not intended. It has not been shifted, so it does not belong to the else block. Let's see